you're not playing guitar as much as before?
Oh, yeah. Yes and yes and yes. Yes and yes.
Could you say that with it?
Yes and yes, and that's the only answer I'm giving you. When we went into rehearsals, the boys were rehearsing at Tristan's house, and I was working. And I flew over and came and did the rehearsal with them, and I just was like singing with the microphone, and I sometimes find that if I'm playing and singing, I can tense up a lot, because it's funny, like my guitar playing and my singing, they require two very different sets of skills for me. Like guitar is for me anyway, guitar is a very like aggressive instrument that I play with a lot of tension, and singing I have to like relax a little bit more. And so if I'm playing and singing, sometimes I'm like up here and I'm like all up there, and it's really fucking hard, and it's like it fucks me up. And I think also for me, like as a performer, being allowed to have that sort of freedom a little bit more on stage, I'm finding really liberating. I still write with the guitar. I'm still working on that, and who knows, in maybe in years to come, I'll pick up the guitar again and play some more. But for now, I'm really just enjoying like the space and the freedom and the relaxation that I get from being on stage. It also means that I can like connect with you guys more, because I'm not like worried about what I'm gonna step on, or like, you know, how shit my solo is gonna be or anything like that, you know.
And then you can dance.
And then I can dance.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, what were your musical role models when you started music, and what are they now, or have they changed? It's to everyone.
I started out just listening to a lot of punk rock. I love bands like Rancid and Green Day. They really kind of were the bands that got me really loving music, and then just from there beyond, I love a lot of music from the 60s and 70s as well.
Yeah, similar for me, like my parents have me listening to things like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Pink Floyd, like loads of UK bands, the Beatles. That's what I was brought up listening to, so I got into loads of that kind of music, guitar bands. Yeah, I guess they're still my role models now, but I kind of take inspiration from everything around me. Like, there's not like one person that I look up to. That's the whole package of getting out there and being creative.
For me, as a kid, when I was younger, like mine and Sam's parents are both in the music industry, so like our house was full of like everything. Every kind of music was played, from classical music to rock music. My first concert that I ever went to was Guns N' Roses. I can't remember, I was like 2 years old, I was like on my mum's shoulders. And then growing up, like Tristan and I went to a bunch of Michael Jackson shows when we were like 8, 9, 10. Yeah, crazy, right? Thankfully we weren't backstage. Sorry. Rest in peace, Michael. And then, like, as a singer, the sort of like first singing artist I went to was actually Frank Sinatra. Like, when I was about 12, I was like discovering what it means to like feel things for the opposite sex, and Frank Sinatra was on, and you know, like I used to sort of go to those records and like pour my heart, and it seemed like he was like singing into my soul, so I was like, oh my god, I love you. And then artists like Miles Davis too, like Some Kind of Blue, like Freddie Freeloader, So What, all those kind of records were like big for me in my childhood. For some reason, I just really liked the expression side of how you can play. And then, yeah, like in my teens, I like gravitated towards like rock and roll a little more. In my like early teen years, I discovered Bob Dylan, and like just fell in love with the way Dylan could tell stories, and that he had this whole like journey that he went on. I don't know if you know much about him, but there's this story that he goes to the crossroads and goes and sells his soul to the devil, and I was like, oh, that's so deliciously dark, I can't get enough of it, it's wonderful. And then in my like later teens, I was playing music in the London scene, so I was like sort of on the peripheries of the scenes, like with the Libertines and bands like the Rakes and the Cazals and all these kind of acts that I like sort of like gravitated towards a little more. And then early 20s went into like punk and punk rock, and then like recently have gone back to the music that I was experiencing in the like mid to late 90s, I think. You know, bands like Blur, bands like Oasis. I went to the Oasis show at Nebworth. I must have been so young. I had the poster, which I actually tore down in a fit of rage one day. I know, terrible. He was an angry child. And so yeah, but I've also always had like a connection to classical music as well. You know, I think in my mid-teens I discovered Ralph Vaughan Williams, and really enjoyed the way that he composed on a cinematic scale. It always felt like he was writing something that would be perfect for a movie. But also, you know, your classics, your Mozarts, your Beethovens, your Chopins, or anything sort of like that, and even like Monteverdi, you know, like composers like that. So classical music's always been a big thing for me. I just like the complexity of it and the way that melodies can shift. But yeah, I'll listen to everything and anything as much as I possibly can do.
I started, what grabbed me from like a very early age was the kind of more bombastic, grander, louder and noisier side of things. That was before I really knew what I was listening to. That was just like, oh, I like that, whatever that was. And the first band I can kind of remember really like being like, oh, who's this? Was probably a Danish band called Kashmir. That I think my mum just had a CD, mum worked with it or something, and she just put it on the car. I was like, this is fucking sick. This is great. And so that was kind of, I was like, this is it. I love this music. From there, it kind of went into like Green Day, Blink-182, and then a friend of mine gave me Slipknot's Iowa, which is a fucking amazing record, and it all went downhill from there onwards. Just got louder and heavier and heavier. And so that's kind of how I really got into it. But again, it was more that kind of like really theatrical, loud, bombastic, over-the-top music that really grabbed me initially. And then from that, it kind of went completely the other way into like very minimal stuff. Like recently, like a lot of Nils Fram, stuff like that, that's really on the other end of it, very delicate, very thin and minimal. And it's those two extremes that I find really interesting.
Yeah, for me, I started, well, my dad actually got my first guitar. He got me into people like Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and a lot of the old stuff. And then actually went through like I went through a drum and bass phase when I was in school. I don't know if anyone else is into that, but that was like, it came and went within 2 years, and I've never really listened to it. Again, it's really weird. So that's
Brazilian Job. Do you remember that compilation CD that was like floating around school?
Yeah.
Had Shake Your Body on it.
Yeah. And also, actually, JP took me to my first gig, which was I think that was Robbie Williams. Big show. And do you remember we went to a restaurant where there was a basketball court inside the restaurant. I can't remember, somewhere in London, but yeah, that was really fun.
Dad got mugged on the day that we went. My dad got mugged. We were there for my birthday, and he was like round the corner, and we were all there playing basketball, and he was late. Yeah, and he got mugged on his way through. Yeah, classic dad. Yeah, we're gonna ruin my party, Dad.
Yeah, so from there I went on to, well, my first ever album I bought was Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park, and that sort of set the tone for where I was going in my music taste. And then I just got heavier and heavier and heavier, I guess, since then. If you imagine like the heaviest music you know, you multiply it by like 10, that's probably what I listen to now. But also, like, I also listen to a lot of jazz and instrumental stuff, and yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
A question for all. After the long time in the studio, how was it to be back on tour? And what was the favorite moments on this tour?
After such a long time in the studio, how was it to be back on tour? It was nerve-wracking, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, we were terrified that first show in Hamburg. Like, there's a picture of us that Craig took backstage, and we're all like hugging, but there's this look of fear in our eyes, like, oh shit. But the moment, I think I said this the other day, but like, on that first track that we played on this run, at that show, like, halfway through playing it, and actually at the end of it as well, we all took a moment and looked at each other, and there was this like collective, like, A, sigh of relief, and B, really like joyful experience. Everyone was like, oh my god, we can do this is amazing.
You remember that?
Yeah, we remember how to play.
That's how we did it.
Yeah. And yeah, it's do you know what's so nice and so lovely for us is the journey that we've gone on and that we're going on as a band, and when we're able to share that with you guys, and for you guys to be receptive to that, like, that's the most fulfilling experience we can possibly have. Like, I know for me on this run, I've never felt more connected to you and 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 everyone here. Like, I have never felt more humbled and more like grateful to be in a band and to be sharing music with like-minded people and just to have a good time, because at the end of the day, like, what is it that we're trying to do as people and as music listeners and as musicians is we're trying to have a shared collective experience, a shared emotional experience, and connect with one another. And this record and being able to play this with you guys is so amazing. What happened? It's amazing. So Hamburg for me was my favorite experience thus far on this run. Berlin last night was fucking awesome too. Like, you know, 3 shows and then we play that, you know, we're now 4 shows in. It's like, all right, like now it's like, now the nerves are still there obviously, which is great because it's really important that they're still there, but we're able to like know that we can do this a little more, so we're able to relax into it a little bit more and have a little bit more fun. So, yeah.
It's nice to be able to breathe, actually. The songs are so much more musical. The feel of everything. Everybody's so happy. And, you know, the reaction that we've got has been amazing. Last night was so much fun. So I've loved every minute. I don't really like time off. So the 3 months we had off in between the studio and here was tough, but so excited to be back on the road and hopefully for the next, you know, until we're in the studio. So, and then my favourite part of the tour was, aside from playing every night, I discovered Lime scooters. And I absolutely had a joyous day in Berlin riding limes all day.
Yeah, I'm just super grateful at the moment, like, having worked so hard in the studio, building it. It's great to come out and see the reaction. Like, for me, like, you know, mixed in with how's it feeling and what's the best moment. For this annoying answer, but every show just keeps getting better and better. I'm kind of thinking, surely it's got to drop off at some point. You know, but the first one, I loved it. The next one, oh, that felt better. And now we're really settling in. It feels like we're just coming together so much. For us, like, touring for the last 4 years heavily, we've been doing it. We've had such time off, it just feels great to get back on it and, yeah, push it all again.
Yeah, I mean, touring is amazing. I think it's probably, for me, one of my favourite parts of the whole part of being a band. You know, we're working for so long behind the scenes, and the only time we really get to share it with everyone is the time when we're on stage, and you guys are there with us. And you know, for like a year's worth of work, to not having been touring for, you know, a year, it feels really, really nice to get back on stage and be here with everyone. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there was, at least I felt a lot of pressure coming out on tour after we spent so long on this record, and just to get every single little bit right, you know, it's like we want to give the live show exactly the same intention that we gave it in the studio. So I think as soon as we finished recording it was like, right, let's do it. Like we're gonna get in. And I think we took like maybe a couple of weeks off, and then we were just in rehearsing. Just boom, 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 let's get it, going over it again. So I think I definitely felt, and I think we definitely felt that pressure of coming back out and wanting to kind of get it right and wanting to, you know, do as best as we can. So it feels good to be back and doing that. It was terrifying, as you said in Hamburg, you know, the first time you show anyone anything. They're like, no, don't, like, don't, let's not do it. But you have to, like, you know, of course, fair enough.
Fight or flight response
Yeah,
kicks
exactly.
in. You're like, oh, there's loads of people outside. Like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Like, we could just run away and just not do this. And then you're like, no, wait, no, we should do this. This is really fun.
My guitar's already plugged in and shit.
Yeah, I'm already on stage. Yes.
What is your favorite line from all of your songs and why?
Gosh, where do I begin? They're all so amazing. Jesus, I'm sorry, what an ego. My favorite line from one of the songs at the moment, we have a new song that we're playing called 1144, which is on this new record. And the lyric, you need to be afraid of us, is really unifying for me at the moment. It's a lyric that I'm really connecting with on a day-to-day basis. I think we started this journey in this band with the concept of Together We Are Stronger, and that's something that I truly believe in. You know, the idea of open, free-flowing communication between people is the thing that will bring us together, and is the thing that will help us survive as a species and as individual people too. You know, it's so important. I know through my life journey that if I don't share what it is that I'm going through, my experience, I hold on to it, and it becomes me. And it's really not who I am. Like the negative things that I can think about myself, or the negative things that I've done, or the things that I'm ashamed of, or the guilt, or the fear, or the upset, the sadness, the grief, whatever it may be, those are things, but they do not define who I am. The person that I am inside is actually a beautiful, caring child that just wants to be free and wants to enjoy themselves. So Together We Are Stronger is definitely still that message, but you need to be afraid of us now. What I'm like hoping to do, and what I think we all want to do, is we're living in a very divided time. Lines are being drawn, there is good and there is evil, and I feel like collectively, particularly within the music world, it is time that we start pushing those messages out there, and we start trying to make an active change. You know, we have incredible activists now, people like Greta Thunberg, who are out there making a change. You know, I mean, she's like, what, in her teens, right? You know, fuck me, that's amazing shit. And for us as a collective band, and for us as a group conscious, I think it's really important that the idea of the 1% that protect themselves do need to be afraid of us, because things are changing, and we will be the people that will make it change, because it hasn't worked out thus far with them controlling it. So you need to be afraid of us at the moment. It's something that's just making me feel really strong. Also, there's another lyric from the same song, don't tell me this is living, because it feels like a disease. I remember we were on tour in America last year, and we started in Texas, and we made our way up and round and down and blah blah. And there was a fan who had come to the first show in Texas, and she came to the last show in Anaheim in Los Angeles. And I'm like, at the end of this, we've been doing this in a van, you know, like people had been sleeping on floors, people hadn't showered for days, we were ruined, we were broken, and our spirit was shattered. We had no idea who we were anymore. And I was on the floor, like crouched over, like just like in pain, and being like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And I looked up, and this girl had learned the lyrics to that song that isn't even released yet. She watched the video and she sang those words back to me. Don't tell me this is living because it feels like a disease. And the belief in her eyes and the way in which we connected at that moment, I felt like Popeye. I was like, oh yeah. And so that lyric for me will, I think, will always have that memory attached to it and that connection to it. So that will forever be like a really special thing for me. Always, always, always. So those are my two. Do you have any?
I'm not going on the spot.
One last question, guys, please. Or two.
Do you mind if I go for someone who is that okay?
It's okay. I tried to more.
You are a saint. Thank you so much. I mean,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay. So, what do you guys think is the hardest about creating a new song? Like, is it the lyrics or the music?
I want to say all of it. I want to say all of it. I mean, it's like, you know, you're staring. Well, no, that's not strictly true. Sometimes I do feel like I'm staring at a blank canvas, and there are days where it's really hard. Like when, I don't know, do you write? Kind of. So you know how it could feel to have like writer's block sometimes, where there are days where it flows and you just are like, yes, I'm killing it. And then there are days that can last forever, it feels like, that are like the hardest fucking thing. And I think as a writer, the toughest time is when you're in those moments, is when you're in those moments of block and you have those moments, or I have those moments of self-doubt. But the key is to keep going. Even though it's like, you feel like you're not worth it and you just don't know what it is that you're doing and it's just all coming out wrong. If you keep like plugging away at it, it like finally will come through and you'll get through to the other side. And that's a pretty hard part, but the way I personally write is, if I'm writing by myself, is in a way of like automatic writing. It's a mode of, basically, if I have an emotion and I have a feeling, I'll create a drum pattern, very, very loose drum pattern, like maybe 2 bars to 4 bars or 1 bar. And if I'm feeling angry, it'll be like a fast punk beat, or if I'm feeling a bit more sensitive, it'll be slightly slower. And then from there, I'll stick my headphones on, I'll pick up my guitar, and I'll just stop to play, and I'll have my microphone set up, and I'll just start rolling and start going into it. And that I find really fulfilling and really rewarding. But yes, I think the hardest part is when I have block. It's really difficult. Just feels like it's never going to end, ever.
It's gone.
I find finishing songs the hardest thing ever. I've got like 400 project files from like past year and a half maybe. 5 of them might be finished. Maybe, like if that. And it's like, I don't know, for me it's like the second 5 minutes after the first 5 minutes where you have that initial idea and you're like, yeah, okay, and once that's all there you're like, right, well I've got that. I didn't really think about the rest of it. And if you're like into it enough, then it'll keep on going. But I've got quite a short attention span when it comes to these things. And it's really easy for me to like be fiddling around with something like, oh that sounds cool, but not for this song. I'm going to start another one. And it just sits in the bin for ages.
Can we do 2 more, Craig? Is that okay? 2 more, yes. Yes.
What happened to your song you sing last year at the festival, Last Chance? It was a really great song. Didn't make it into the album. To the album.
I've completely forgotten. Last Chance for Us. Yeah, what happened to it? It's still around. It's still around. Like any material that we have, like it will always remain in a secret folder that will be brought out at some point in time. I think when we were working on this record, we sat down with our producer and we all kind of collectively came together and decided what we were and weren't going to record. We had a very specific set number of songs that we could record with him, and so that one didn't quite make the list. But as there's a bunch of other tracks too that like we're all really proud of. That there's a bunch of really gross. There's a bunch of other tracks that we haven't recorded that we're really stoked on. That we're definitely keeping in our back pocket for a later date. As always, we'll always hold on to them because they're creative parts of us. So that one's still alive. It's still there.
Good to know. It
Yeah,
was a really
you
great
like it?
song. Yeah, it
Oh,
was very.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a fun one. It's definitely like, sort of going back to that like punky first feeling of album one, which is cool. I think it's just about like getting it completely perfect and then like bringing it to you guys in a better way.
Can't wait.
Thank you.
Yes. When the new album is released and you go on tour again, can we looking forward to longer shows?
No, we're going to play shorter shows. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think with this tour, for those of you guys who haven't been, there's a lot of people here this evening who have been to a lot of shows who have seen the show from Hamburg 4 days ago, whatever it was. We're playing a lot of new material. In fact, we're pretty much playing the entire new record like back to back for you guys. We wanted to share it with you first before it goes to record. I know we all know how like eager you guys are to hear it, and we just wanted to share it with you as quickly as possible, basically. And with that, we're like building up that like strength again. It's a scary thing to play these new songs for the first time. So I think once we have got this under our belt, we'll definitely look at like extending it and doing more. But for now, like we definitely just wanted to like give this to you as as quickly and as hard as possible. I mean, you remember those first gigs that we did in however many years ago that was, like what, 2016 January, right? Like those sets were about 40 minutes long, and we were playing 10 tracks on that first run, and on this run we're now playing 12. And so the set is definitely extended from those first ones, but it's like anything, it's a rebirth, it's a recycle, it's a new experience and a new journey. And as we progress, sure, like we'll put some in. I think also as well, like for me as a singer and for us as a band, like that first record definitely exists in a very like angry, dark, emotional place. And as a performer, I can sometimes find it quite hard to go back there. It's like living in a darkness is very difficult for me, and it's something that I feel like I'm trying to sort of get away from as I grow older, is have that rise of the phoenix again, burn to the ashes and fucking fly up again. And so I think we definitely made the conscious decision to sort of be like, this is the new chapter. This is like where we are at now, and we want to experience that and share that with everyone. It's a very long-winded answer. I do tend to prattle on, don't I? Bloody hell. Yes. You can expect a longer show. Yeah, totally. Shut the fuck up, Jimmy. Okay, well thank you all so much for waiting outside and for coming to the show. We're so grateful. Like, it means so much to us that you guys are here, and if you've seen us before, thank you so much for coming back. It means everything. It's going to be really fun this evening, and I hope that you all have a really good time. We're also grateful, and thank you. Truly humbled by you guys being here.